Illumination, a Christmas Carol.
5, 6, 7, 8!
Experience the new Worcester at the Hanover Theater.
Have not been out to lunch on the new Worcester Common, I'm telling you, you are missing out. We're going to tell you about this fantastic concert series that's going on. Lots of other fun things that are going on in the city as well. Aaron Williams will be joining us in just a moment, right here on Wake Up Worcester. Right now, though, Barbara Haller with us. And Barbara, thank you so much for stopping by, District 4 City Councilor. A very serious subject, and that is that a lot of us, and I mean, we see these stories all the time, about something will happen in a neighborhood, and someone will say, I didn't know that a sex offender was living in my neighborhood. Every year, you and the Maine South Public Safety Alliance are making it known who's in the District 4, who's in the Maine South neighborhood. This year, no exception. Tell us a little bit about what you found and about why it seems as if maybe a disproportionate number of sex offenders who live in Worcester live in the Maine South area.
Well, let me give you a little background, Hank. You know, we have 3 levels of sex offenders in our city, as well as sexual predators that are still in prison. When a someone convicted of a sexual offense is released from prison, they're leveled by the Sex Registry Board that determines their degree of danger to the community, level 3 being the most dangerous. And so for the last 5 years, I've been tracking the number of level 3 sex offenders in the city of Worcester. And I'm looking for trends. I'm looking to find out where these individuals are living, what is the kind of crimes we need to be concerned about. And each year, as might not be a surprise, the number increases. And over the 5 years, we've gone from 71 to 171. It's a point-in-time study. I do a point-in-time study. It always happens just before National Night Out, which is this huge neighborhood party we have at the YMCA Park. So I always do it that weekend before the party, and I document it. And I bring the book, print out the pictures, and bring it to National Night Out, and use it to raise awareness in the community about level 3 sex offenders and sexual crimes in general.
Because you really surprised me. So 5 years ago, 71 level 3 sex offenders, now 171. Are they coming to Worcester because there's something in Worcester that is inviting to a level 3 sex offender to be here?
Well, certainly we need to do more research on what's happening to in other communities. But what we do know is that some communities, I believe it's over 30, have passed regulations against level 3 sex offenders living near schools and in more sensitive areas of their community.
So it's
we
so
looked
difficult,
at that.
right?
We looked at that in Worcester, and the decision was made not to go that route. I'm filing an order on council for September 1st, asking Worcester to relook at that again.
Well, this is where it's difficult, and I do remember some of the other communities, and you know, I mean, where you effectively zoned it so that someone really wasn't able to live in that community at all. I mean, they wouldn't even be able to go and have a job, say at the mall, for example, because of the way that things were zoned. There comes into play this question of, if you have paid your debt to society, can society then come and say, but when you come back, we're going to make it so you can't find a place to live? And that seemed to me to be part of the argument at the time.
Yeah, and I think we've been put in a very tough situation, because you're right, person's being released, you've paid your debt to society. At the same time, the state is telling us that these people pose a substantial public safety risk so as to warrant the release of their personal information, including their photograph, where they live and where they work. So it's, yes, they can come out in society, but you better be careful. You know, so it's a difficult situation, and communities struggle with that. Whether that's an influence in Worcester or not, again, we need to do a little more research on it, but I have to think it's an impact. If you're a level 3 sex offender being released, are you going to go live in a town in which there's substantial restrictions, or are you going to move into a town where there are no restrictions? That's not a hard question to answer. The other thing is, we know that South Middlesex Opportunity Council, the people that operate the PIP and also have some transitional housing in the city, and a lot throughout the Massachusetts, received the Department of Corrections state contract, the only agency to receive that contract. It was a sole award to locate housing for difficult-to-place inmates coming out of our state prisons. And specifically in the application mentions leveled sex offenders and violent offenders. SMOC bid on that RFP and was awarded it. And so they have the sole contract to find housing for these difficult-to-place people, including level 3 sex offenders. So one of the things I look at when I look at this data on an annual basis is are we seeing pockets of where people are living? Is there some indication that that we're just not having a random selection of people living in our community? And I have to say, this year I am seeing patterns. We have one location. We always have a number living at 701 Main Street.
Right.
This year is no exception, 8. We also have a number of people that register as homeless, and Representative Frasolo and Polito, along with Billy Bro of the Main South Alliance, we're working on trying to close that loophole. So there's always a number of people that say homeless. And then there's a number of people who are in violation, which means that the police haven't been able to find where they're located.
Right, where they are.
So there's all these kind of, there's this
Right.
undercurrent of people out there that they're kind of under the radar of the sexual registry intent. But given that where there are addresses, we have one address in which it's a triple-decker. There's 4 level 3 sex offenders living in that location. We have another one in which there are 3 living in it. And it turns out that those are owned by the same person.
But now, is SMOC, for example, are they finding them, these places here in the city of Worcester, or?
I don't know. I know that they received a contract from the state to find housing for difficult-to-place inmates, including leveled sex offenders. Whether I can connect those 2 dots, I can't connect those today, but I am looking into it, and I will continue to look into it.
What would you like to bring before the City Council to keep a better lid on this?
Well, one of the things I'd like to do is I'd like to revisit whether we can put some restrictions on either the number of leveled sex offenders living in a particular location, or restricting it from being around schools or playgrounds, or some of those kind of more familiar reasons for eliminating the possibility of leveled sex offenders living in those neighborhoods. But let me just be clear, Hank, because as important to me as these statistics and tracking them are, to me the real message is we have people living in our community that commit sexual crimes, and we know what 171 of them are. There's many more than that. These are people that have been identified, convicted, and are now back in our community. I was in a situation last week where there was a family whose child was molested by someone on the street, a neighbor down the street. That person isn't in this book.
Right.
You know, so there are people out there that are willing to do harm to our loved ones and ourselves, and we need to be prepared. We need to talk about it with our families. We need to make it clear that if something untoward happens, that you can go and talk to somebody about it, so that we can identify those people and make sure that they don't reoffend. But the increase of level 3 sex offenders, while it is going to increase, once you're a leveled sex offender, you don't not become a level. Once one, always one kind of. So the number is going to increase every year. Because the only way to get off the list is if you die or you move to another community.
But it seems, and we only have about 30 seconds, it seems what we want to make sure, though, is that the rest of Massachusetts,
that we don't
cities
become,
and towns, that they aren't passing things, and then it's so, hey, great, move to Worcester. That seems to be what there would be a fear of.
Absolutely, absolutely. And as I say, I will file orders for September 1st to ask the administration to look into that and to see how we